Okay, we're in volume 4 of the Bible story by Arthur S Maxwell. And the book that I have has David and Goliath on the front. Okay, we are at part 3, story 4, dividing a baby. Most of y'all probably already know this story, and it's the one he's most famous for. Well, I think. I mean, back whenever I read it, a long time ago, it was. But you got to think, this is a 70-year-old book, and it's mainly is set up for kids. So, okay, let me get back to the story. Part 3, story 4, dividing a baby. One of the first problems the new king met was a very difficult one. Two women came to him, both claiming the same baby. They wanted him to decide whose it was, but how could he tell? Sitting on the throne, Solomon listened carefully to their story. The two women lived together in the same house. Their babies were born about the same time, one 3 days before the other. Then one of the babies had died. Said the first woman, "O Lord, this woman's child died in the night because she laid on it, and she rose at midnight and took my son from me while thine handmaiden slept, and laid it in my bosom, and laid her dead child wait, and laid it in her bosom. Okay. And laid her dead child in my bosom." In other words, she switched kids. "When I woke the morning to feed her baby, so she said, she found a dead child in her arms, which was not hers, but the other woman's." "No," cried the other woman frantically, "but the living is my son, and the dead one is your son, and the dead is your son." "No," yelled the first woman, "but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son." What a scene must have been in the palace, with these two angry women shouting at each other, ready to tear out each other's hair if they had a chance. Poor Solomon, he had never met anything like this before. If ever he needed the wisdom God which had promised him, it was now. "Bring me a sword," he said calmly, and a servant brought him one, and while silence fell in the room. "Whatever is he going to do with that sword?" someone whispered. "Now the baby," said the king. There was a gasp. "Surely he's not going to cut the baby in half." And then it has an illustration of a soldier holding the baby and the two women fighting over it in front of Solomon. So there's the illustration. I mean, they really wanted to tear each other up, which would probably have been a bad thing anyway. And let's get back to the story. "Divide the living in two," said Solomon, "and give one half to the one and the half to the other." Everybody was shocked. "No, please don't," screamed the real mother. "Oh, my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it." No, said the other woman heartlessly. Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Ah, mused Solomon, now I know to whom the child belongs. Then, pointing to the woman who asked that the baby's life be spared, he said, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother, she is the mother thereof. As the two children went out of the presence of the king, their story went with them. It leapt from city to city and village to village till everybody from one end of the country to the other was talking about that baby and how Solomon had found out who its mother was. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. And then, of course, it has, excuse me, somebody's coming. Um, them walking away. An illustration of the family, the mom walking away with the living child, and the other lady looked a little ticked off. And then, of course, people are looking at and starting to make the story. Okay, this story was little bit, so we're gonna stop, and then we're gonna start on our next story. So that was story 4 in part 3. Okay, pause, and then we're gonna go to the next one.